Everybody, get in my truck!
As you just heard, the unknown bangs in the distance were followed by strange animalistic grunts and calls. There is definitely a human element to the vocals, but the sheer volume and power behind the vocals, especially taking into consideration how significantly diminished the audio can become in the recording process, what creates the question of whether these vocalizations were actually made by humans or not. The sounds also appear to be coming from more than one source, as one call sounds much closer than the other. The bangs are also very questionable. There's clearly a lot of power behind whatever the bangs are, and if the bangs were to be coming from a tree being hit with something by a human,
I think it just had a microwave just pass me.
At least. The bangs do seem to resemble a kind of drumming sound, but that only opens the door to more questions, such as who and why would anyone be banging on drums in the middle of the woods at night? Whatever the sounds were, the group of friends made the right call getting back in the truck, getting out of there as quickly as possible. Similarly, in this next video, another YouTuber is sitting by his campfire at his campsite at the Fairy Lake, Quebec, at some unknown hour in the night, when he hears sounds out in the distance. Choosing to investigate, the man walks through the pitch-black woods with the only light being from his flashlight.
Let's see how this place looks like in the lights. Pitch black. This is one of the creepiest forests I've ever been. I'll be spending the night here. I'm not sure if you guys ever seen the Blair Witch Project, but damn, this is just giving me Blair Witch Project vibes.
Moments after stating how familiar this environment is to the Blair Witch Project, this happens.
Oh, fuck. Oh, hi. What the hell? I need to get out of here.
A high-pitched voice calls out from the darkness of the woods, "I see you." It sounds like it could have been a child. The man behind the camera acknowledges the possibility that it could have been another camper. However, he also mentions that he'd been in these woods many times and had never seen anyone else in them. Furthermore, if it was another camper, it would be an incredibly creepy thing to call out to someone else in the woods, knowing the kind of fear it would likely instill in anybody. The man made it back to his campsite afterwards and didn't hear the voice ever again. Another form of camping is car camping, usually done in a truck, van, or larger vehicle. Car camping can provide an added sense of security over a tent for a multitude of reasons. In the following video, a young man named Noah took his truck out to Sun River, Oregon, where he found a deserted road alongside the woods. Noah decided to take his truck down this road and park it there for the night, where he would sleep. He thought this would be a perfect place to camp out since no one else would be around, but he was mistaken. At some point in the night, Noah was awoken to sounds outside of his truck, which was when he started recording on his GoPro.
I'm currently sleeping in my truck. I don't even know what time it is. There's someone walking around my truck right now. If you can hear that, it's pretty loud. He's been walking around for like 30.
Main
Like,
Street.
that's how I get out. I don't really know what to do. I'm a little freaked out right now. And it's like pitch black outside. Morning. And he's walking around. And he's like really close to my truck. I've never been scared. And like, this doesn't make any sense because I'm always weird. You can see no one was on the road. He's like walking.
video, someone can be heard rubbing their fingers against the glass of the truck, and then at multiple points, there's a tapping on the glass too. The video then cuts to the next day, where Noah can see exactly what the person outside of his truck was doing. Hand marks all along the back windshield, which suggests the person was trying to wipe away the dirt on the glass to get a look inside the truck. So Noah wasn't as alone in those woods as he thought he would have been. But luckily he was in the safety of a locked vehicle as opposed to a tent.
Handprints there, a lot of scratches, stuff like that. Dragging his finger on my side of my truck. Well, looks like to be trying to get inside my truck. More handprints trying to get in my truck. At least the back canopy was locked, but yeah, that was the result.
Another instance of someone having an unexpected visitor while car camping comes from the YouTube channel Asleep 5 Decades. This time it's a woman named Elisa in her van camping out overnight. Lisa nicknames her van the Dream Machine, which she travels in. She was awoken from a deep sleep around 4:30 in the morning to a knocking on her van, right by her head. There were 3 sets of knocks, each set with 3 knocks. By the 3rd set of knocks, she pulled out her phone and started recording.
Somebody's back here again. I hear footprints. Hello? How can I help you? It's what they're doing. Be safe. Who are you?
The man knocking on the van could be heard saying, "I have a question for you." For someone to approach a woman's van at 4:30 in the morning, knowing she's inside of it and saying, "I have a question for you," is as big of a red flag as can be. Lisa then peeks out the front of her van to see a car parked way down the road with its headlights on. Likely the car the person knocking on the van arrived in.
So I quietly got up and I went to the front and I peeked out and parked way up on the drive. All I could see is like headlights, and then they backed out and went and left.
Whether there was someone else in the car or not is unknown. The next morning, Lisa finds large boot marks in the snow right outside her van. It's very possible the man outside of her van tried to enter the van, only to realize it was locked. Luckily, Lisa had the doors locked, but after something like this happens, if you're in a vehicle, it would be best to get behind the wheel and drive somewhere else immediately. Fortunately for Lisa, things didn't go south this time. In this last video, YouTuber Ads Ventures takes his stealth camper van out to the woods in honor of Halloween night. He brings his van as close to the woods as he can before he has to continue to the woods on foot.
Unfortunately, this is the closest that we can get to it.
Clean up, I'm guessing.
Alongside the woods is an old church house and cemetery that he has to pass before entering the woods. While he decides to post up and make a latte in the woods, this happens.
I don't really think this film should have got a saucepan with a lid.
An easily missed white shadow can be seen walking past in the background, and then multiple times he hears sounds not far away, and when he looks off to the distance, small orb-like lights appear at times.
I'll come up to that bit where the light was just shining. What? It's moved. I'm gonna have to go and check that out. What the hell?
But most notably, perhaps you missed it, was a silhouette-looking object just briefly exposed by the light.
It's moved. I'm gonna have to go and check that out.
This might not be the last time this is seen. As he continues to walk, he sees his presence as he shows his impersonation in the darkness.
Sweet. I've seen it somewhere.
suggest it was a mannequin placed there by someone as a Halloween prank, while others bring up the close proximity to the cemetery and the white orbs and suggest that something paranormal was going on. And of course, there are some people who think it could have been staged as well. But what was really happening in this video is anybody's guess.
Fucking still waking up.
When I moved out of my parents' house and into my own apartment, I had a lot of junk and stuff that I needed to get rid of. I never liked Craigslist because I always found it sketchy, especially after hearing so many stories about it. So I listed a lot of my things on Facebook Marketplace. Things that wouldn't fit in my apartment that my dad wanted out of the house. My weight set, small child toys, sets, and a whole bunch of other things. The weight set was what I listed for the most money. It had a barbell, a plate tree stand, and a bunch of plates. I was selling it for $340, which I thought wasn't a bad deal. Surprisingly, I wasn't getting many bites. I'd have some people here and there message asking if it's still available, and then never message me again about it. Until a few days after posting it, a guy named Joe messaged me showing interest. His profile picture was pretty grainy, but it was a guy with a fishing hat on holding up a fish. His account info was private. I couldn't see how many friends he had or anything, only that we had 3 mutuals. All 3 of them were girls from my town. The guy's last name was also the last name of a Joe I knew from my town who used to date a girl I was somewhat friendly with, so I right away assumed it was him, especially since I knew that guy liked to fish. After telling him it's still available, he said, "Great, when can I pick it up?" I was pleasantly surprised he didn't try to haggle the price down at all. I said I'm available any night after 7. He said he could come by tonight around 11 p.m. after work. I said that's fine. A little late in my opinion, but if that's what worked for his schedule, it worked for me. I then decided to just be a little friendly and say, "Hey, you used to date Gina, right?" I saw the typing indicator in the chat for a second, but then it went away and he didn't reply. Not for a couple minutes. And he said yes. I thought it was a little strange, the random pause, but it could have been anything. Maybe he thought it was weird I brought it up, so I just said, "I knew I recognized your name, LOL." He read the message, but didn't respond for half an hour. Then I got a message back from him saying, "Yeah, LOL. Can you send me your address and I'll let you know when I'm coming?" So I sent him my address. He read it and didn't respond for many hours. By the time I got home from work, it was around 6. I went to the gym and got back around 7:30, the whole time waiting for some kind of acknowledgement from Joe. And then he finally messaged back asking for my number. I gave it to him. Seconds later, I got a text from a number with our area code. I have an iPhone, and when I texted him back, it was green. I sometimes will find that to be a red flag and possibly scams, because most people I know have iPhones. But I wasn't thinking that way with this, because I knew this guy already. He said he'd be over in a few hours, and so I continued about my business. It was now around 11 o'clock, and I was waiting patiently for his text or call. I sent a follow-up saying, "Let me know when you're coming." It was around 11:30 that he texted me, "I'm here, come out." I looked out the front window of my apartment, and I saw a dark-colored car out front in the street. I tried calling him so I could tell him that I need help bringing the weights outside. He rejected my call. Then he texted again, "Yo, come out." I texted back, "I see you. You can come in. I just need help with the weights. There's a lot of them." He texted back, "Nah, gotta see if you're straight first." I had to process what the hell that even meant for a second. All I knew was this did not seem like the way this white-as-hell fishing dude would be texting. I tried calling one more time, and he denied the call again. Now I was suspicious. I decided to text that girl Gina, along with the mutual friends I had with Joe on Facebook. The first one to text back was this girl Angela, who said, "OMG, that's a catfish, someone's pretending to be him." When I asked why she added it, she said it must have been a different name when it added her. I looked out the window again, and the car was still there. Someone was about to do something bad to me. I wasn't sure what, or who, or why. I had no way to contact the real Joe because he didn't seem to have any actual social media profiles. not public at least. I kept the door shut and locked and didn't respond any further. I turned off the light in the living room and kinked the blind just a bit, and I swear on my life, there was a guy hiding behind one of the bushes in front of the house. I watched until the car outside honked its horn, and then I saw the guy in the bushes run to the car, and then the car sped off. Witnessing that, I didn't feel relief. I felt gut-wrenching fear, not only of what I just narrowly avoided, but the fact that those people now had my address. The Facebook profile was deleted the next day, after a bunch of people reported it, though I think the people who made the account deleted it or deactivated it themselves. Joe himself confirmed he had nothing to do with any of that, and that someone must have been using his pictures and name to try and scam people in the area. Though I'm not so sure it was someone trying to scam random people, because days later I got this threatening text. "Hey yo bitch, watch your back. We know where you live. Keep trying to talk to my girl, see what happens, man. We'll fuck you up right outside your crib. Sleep with one eye open, pussy, we watching." I brought this to the police, but it was such a low priority report.
We're at Best Buy and we're gonna see if we can find any of these for the GoPro, but the ones that you put the charger right through. So we're gonna see if they have any, and we'll be back.
I think it's connected. I don't know.
So they didn't have what I needed, which is hey. Did I just really just drop it right there? There it is. Okay. So this, it's not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the charging one. It's already set up on this one. But they didn't have it. They're out of stock on a lot of things for GoPro, so I might have to buy it on Amazon, but you know, but we'll begin going in a few, and then that'll be today's video. But yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really want anyone to know.
All right, we're back. We're gonna slowly head back home now. Come on. What do we do?
You gotta do what you gotta do. My parents' house is on the really nice side of town, but not in a gated community. I put the pinball machine up on Facebook Marketplace for $200. The next day, I got a message from someone with no profile picture with the name Jasmine, expressing interest in the pinball machine. They offered $175. I agreed to that number. He set up a time for when she would come. But when that time came, she never showed up. She messaged me saying, "I'll be there soon. Be there soon." It was getting late now, and I had work the next day. I asked her if she would be here by 11 the latest. She said 11:30. I asked if we could do this tomorrow instead, but she said she's already on her way. So I just stayed up a little later reading. 11:45 rolls around, and she finally tells me that she's here. I went to the front door, saw there was a car out front. What I wasn't expecting was to see all 4 doors of the car opening, 4 people stepping out, 1 girl, 3 guys. I messaged her, "Are you here with people?" At this point, she wasn't answering the messages anymore. I watched as the 4 people approached my door. I kept the store door locked. It's 3 guys, that's kind of good. All 4 of these people looked like trouble. As they got close enough, I said, "Are you Jasmine?" She said through the door, "Yeah." I said I can't let all the guys in the house, but I can't tell the street. I listened to me. Unmistakably the sound of a window being shattered. I sprang up, but right before sprinting to make sure the bedroom door was locked, I stopped myself and instead quietly got out of bed and tiptoed to the door. I had already locked it. I tiptoed back to my bed and had my phone in hand, ready to call 911. For some stupid reason, I was waiting till I heard any other kind of sounds before dialing, and eventually, I heard the sound I needed to hear. Footsteps rapidly coming upstairs. I dialed 911 as I felt like throwing up. The footsteps outside the room didn't even sound like they were trying to be quiet. I whispered the entire time I was on the line with the dispatcher. Time was moving in reverse. I hid literally under my bed as I listened to people ransacking the house. In reality, they were in and out in less than 5 minutes, way before the police actually showed up. The backyard window was shattered. Things were stolen from just about each room. Ironically, the pinball machine wasn't taken. What happened from there is I got a police report paper, made an appointment to see a couple detectives at the police station, and shared with them all the details I had, including the Facebook account of the Jasmine girl. I fabricated the story a bit, saying someone in the house threatened me. My reasoning for this was I felt that this case would actually be taken seriously if I claimed I was threatened. To my surprise, they did take this seriously. The detectives apparently gathered the necessary data of the Facebook account in question to track this Jasmine girl, who lived a few towns over in a less than desirable area. With a search warrant, they searched her house and found multiple belongings stolen from her parents' house. She ratted out the 3 men who accompanied her, and they were all charged with burglary. I think most of the stuff that was stolen was recovered. I'm sure there were some things that I wasn't aware of that were stolen that were never returned, but to this day it hasn't come up, so it's fine. I think by me claiming I was verbally threatened may have definitely helped make the detectives take this more seriously, but I could be wrong. My family was of course livid at first, but came to be understanding about it in the end. I was searching Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for a new phone. This was a long time ago, so it had to be like an iPhone 7 or something. Phone still had the home buttons back then. I found this listing for a phone. It was some generic looking post. iPhone whatever for sale. New, around $300. It was a really, really good deal for the time, that I remember. He told me all the small details I needed to know, that it was factory unlocked, never opened, and stuff like that. He sent me a video of the box too, still sealed. The guy, whose name was Melvin, seemed nice and easy to talk to over text. I got his number and we discussed the pickup point. His location on the Facebook ad was much closer to me, but over text he was telling me he was only there this morning, and now he went about an hour north. I wasn't happy about this, but this was a really good deal and I didn't want to pass it up. I started asking a bunch of friends if they'd want to come on an adventure with me. Really just a way of making the chore of accompanying me for an hour drive seem fun. My friend Martina actually agreed to come with, on the promise that I buy her food for coming. So this Melvin guy sent me the address of a police precinct about an hour away, saying he only does deals in police precinct parking lots to avoid scams. I obviously had no problem with this. In fact, it made me feel a little more confident in this whole thing. I picked up Martina on the way around 8:30 at night. She being in the car and having someone to talk to made the trip more fun. It was also a Friday night, so after work we could go out and do whatever we wanted. When I got off the highway, we were about 10 minutes away. We found ourselves in a very secluded, quiet area. It seemed like a lot of different wooded areas. Occasional buildings and houses, and then more woods. We got to the police precinct, and there was no one visibly parked in the parking lot, besides empty police cars, of course. We drove around the whole building a couple times, and I didn't see this Melvin guy, who said he was in a black Altima. So I decided to call him. He picked up and said he's having issues with his car on the side of the road, and asked if I could come to him. He sent his location, and I checked it. It was on the side of some random road with nothing on either side. And by nothing, I mean woods. That's the kind of area we were in. He asked me to come help him jump his car. He had jumper cables. I said, yeah, I guess I could do that. I mean, we drove the hour to get there. I didn't want to just drive another hour for nothing. Martina was shaking her head the whole time I was on the phone. The guy said, see you soon, and hung up. Martina then basically screamed, no way, this is sketchy, we're going home. I told her we'll just drive past the location he sent and see what's up. I did agree with her though. This seemed incredibly sketchy. I just was very upset if we drove 2 hours for nothing. We did drive to the location. When we got to it, we saw the reflection of a car's front lights coming up on the pitch black road we found ourselves on. As we got closer, I slowed down. It was in fact a black car, but we couldn't see anyone inside or outside of it. Mind you, it was very dark. I feel like we would have seen someone's head on the inside or something. Martina said to just keep driving. I said I know. It was about the sketchiest thing I'd ever seen. A pitch black road between two patches of woods. No streetlights, no other cars in sight. A pretty convenient place to break down and have someone who's coming with a wad of cash to buy something from you come and meet. I drove right past it. Immediately, Melvin starts calling me over and over. I ignored every single call. Then he texted me saying, I saw you just passed me. Why didn't you stop? Turn around. Ignored. Martina is a very positive person, so she laughed about this whole situation, and then said, okay, you owe me food. So I looked up the nearest diner. We stopped there for some food. It was a quiet, small diner. We were just about the only people in there. It was Friday night. The waitress just took our coffee order, when a lone guy with his hood up steps into the diner and sits in one of the bar stools. He was wearing a navy blue, good-looking hoodie. He glanced over to Martina and I, and looked straight ahead, talking to the lady working behind the counter, apparently ordering the coffee. The man kept glancing at our table like every minute, so I whispered to Martina, don't look now. That guy at the counter might be the Melvin guy. The waitress came with our coffees, asked if we were ready to order. I said a few minutes, please. The lady behind the counter handed that man his coffee. He said loud and clear, thank you, darling. It was that guy from the phone's voice, Melvin or whatever his real name was. I told Martina that's him. We need to pay the check and leave. I waved the server over and whispered to her if we could just get the check. She asked if something's wrong, and I noticed the guy look over as I said this. I said yes, we just needed some coffee for the road. So she got the check, I paid, we downed our coffees, and left the building. We got in my car. Martina said, oh my god, he's getting up. I looked into the diner and saw that guy leaving towards the door. As quickly as possible, I drove us out of that parking lot and sped down the road. And yes, we noticed a black car in the parking lot that could have been the one that we saw on the side of the road. I was driving too fast for him to have caught up. We got back on the highway and I was flying for a while, until I got a low tire pressure light come on. I knew instantly he slashed my tire. The PSI was going down fast, so to avoid damage, I pulled to the side of the highway and parked it. I went out to confirm that my tire was slashed. I had to replace the tire with the spare, which took about 15 minutes. The whole thing was a disaster, and if you're wondering, yes, I still got Martina dinner that night. Now Martina and I look at it as a crazy story that we can look back on and tell people. It's absolutely horrifying, though, how close we were to walking into a trap. My 10-year high school reunion was coming up. I didn't originally plan on going, but my friends convinced me. The reunion was in August on a Saturday. It was organized by a group of people from our graduating class, and it was going to be held at some catering hall in a nice area of town. It had been a long time since I'd seen any of these people, minus my handful of friends from high school who I'd be going with. I really didn't want to go because I didn't like a lot of the people from my high school, and making small talk with 100 people I hadn't seen in 10 years sounded awkward. But I also felt like if all my friends went and I didn't, I'd feel like I was missing out. When the night of the reunion finally came, I drove to my friend Kayla's house, and our two other friends Marissa and Sophia came as well. We were pre-gaming at her house. Then we ended up calling an Uber from there. The reunion started around 8, so we got there fashionably late at 9. We stepped into the party hall, and right away familiar faces everywhere, only older-looking versions of everyone. There had to be at least 80 to 100 people here, and it was more than I was expecting. Being with my friends made it easier to say hi to people I hadn't seen in forever. The vibe, honestly, was a bit different than I was expecting. There was a DJ, party lights, and a generally loud atmosphere, whereas what I was expecting was a quiet, intimate setting focused heavily on talking. People were getting really drunk at this, including my friends. We sat at a table with some other girls from high school. It was about 10 of us at the table. As the night progressed and everyone mingled and caught up with different people, I found myself feeling a bit awkward as my friends were doing their own things. I was alone at the table eating, and I noticed a guy who I didn't recognize at another table, looking in my direction. When we locked eyes, I looked away, but I wondered who he was. I glanced back for just a second and noticed he was still looking at me. Next thing I knew, he was coming over to sit next to me. He told me his name was Connor, and he started hitting on me immediately, saying he saw me across the room and couldn't help but come over and say hi. He was honestly decent looking, and I felt awkward sitting alone anyway, so I really didn't mind him sitting there. I said, "I don't recognize you. Do you go to our school?" He said, "Yeah, everyone's been saying that. I transferred to your guys' school our senior year. I didn't meet a lot of you." I basically said, "Oh, that's interesting. Who do you actually know here?" He replied that he's just friends with a couple guys who are also here. I asked their names. He gave first names only. I guessed the last names, and he said yes to both as he laughed. We talked for a while until he asked for my number so that he could go back to his friends. I gave it to him and walked away. Overall impression was that he seemed normal and I enjoyed talking with him. Now I was left alone again, so after finishing my food and drink, I went to find my friends. They were all separated, talking with different people. Some people who I wasn't the biggest fan of. I went over to Kayla, who was mid-conversation with a few people, and I joined the conversation. My friends were all wasted. I was definitely drunk, but not on their level. I kind of wanted to just go home. It almost felt like a saving grace when Connor texted me, asking me if I needed a ride home since he's leaving. I texted him back, "Yes, please." He told me to meet him in the lobby of the building. So I looked around and then decided to just do an Irish exit. Too many people to say goodbye to. I saw Connor in the lobby by the front door. He walked to his car. It was a black Ford coupe. I honestly don't know what it was. I'm not a car person. He asked me to put my address into his phone. I thanked him for doing this as we started to drive. He pulled a couple water bottles from the back seat and handed me one. He suggested I drink a lot of water to avoid a hangover tomorrow. So I started to sip some water. Suddenly my phone started blowing up. Kayla was calling me. Marissa and Sophia were also texting me in our group chat. I didn't pick up the call, but I read their texts. They were asking where I went, and I told them I got a ride home. They kept pressing me, asking with who, and Kayla said check the Facebook group that organized the reunion. And Marissa sent a screenshot of a post made by a girl in the Facebook group, warning everyone of a random guy who wasn't from our school going around talking to girls, introducing himself as a different name to everyone. Kayla tried calling me. I pressed decline and texted her I'm with this guy named Connor. She replied in all caps that someone said that she saw me leave with that guy. When it's actually happening now. I looked at the guy and I evaluated the situation. I had to run when I had a chance. The next time we were stopped at a red light, I opened the door and said I gotta go and ran as fast as I could. I ran into this parking lot of a TGI Fridays. He didn't chase after me, he just kept driving.
Fuck, that
I
smells.
called Kayla back right then and there. She told me to wait. Already were over here and picked me up. I
Something's
waited
going
in this
on
parking
at
lot for like
Dartmouth.
15 to 20 minutes until they arrived. By this point, I started feeling extremely drunk, lightheaded, and a foggy memory. I believe he had put something in that water bottle to try and sedate me. Thankfully, I didn't drink that much. The worst part about this was that the guy now had my apartment address. We all slept at Kayla's house that night. The next morning, I drove home, but shortly after entering my apartment, there was a knock at my door. I freaked out thinking it was that guy, but I saw it was my neighbor through the window. I opened the door. My neighbor asked me if I knew the guy who came to my apartment last night and was looking through the windows. I told him all about last night. He was appalled too. He said when he confronted the guy asked him if this was where Miranda lives. My neighbor was wise enough to say, no, you have the wrong apartment. My neighbor doing this just may have saved me from that guy ever coming back. When my lease was up, I moved to a different apartment in the same community, just to be safe. I'm super grateful my friends all tried to warn me in time before it was too late. My high school does 5- and 10-year reunions. My
Alright.
5-year reunion was a few years ago. My high school
We'll see you guys in the next one.
200 kids.
See ya!
Not everyone